Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Miss Burnett, and today we're going to be learning all about states of matter, identifying solids, liquids, and gases, and how heat can affect them. So, I wanted to begin our lesson today by doing a little background information. But first, go ahead and pause this video and look to anybody around you, siblings, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, anybody that's there with you, and tell them what you remember learning about solids, liquids, and gases. Okay, awesome. So, a little background information. Do y'all know what a molecule is? So, a molecule is what's in the matter. It is the smallest possible amount of a substance. So, in a solid, they're super close together. And they go just like this. So when you have a solid like a pen or a marker, it doesn't move and it keeps its shape, right? But what about water? Water is a liquid, right? So the molecules in water slide back and forth, just like this. So when you pour water into a container, it'll take the shape of a container. It doesn't have its own shape. Now, what about gas? So the molecules in gas, they go crazy. They're bouncing everywhere. So gas never has any shape at all. What about the air around you? Does it fit in a container? Can it take a shape? No. Now that I've explained a little bit about what solids, liquids, and gases are like, can you look around your house or wherever you are and find some examples of each? How about a solid? What about a liquid? Or a gas? Here's some examples that I found around my house. So, for a solid, how about a marker? It's pretty solid, right? But for a liquid, how about some coffee? It's a liquid, right? And what about gas? What is around us every single day that could be a gas? Air, right? It's all around us. It's so cool. Isn't it so awesome that our everyday lives are surrounded by so much matter? Solids, liquids, and gases. So now that I've had an intro about our lesson today, I'd like to give you our goal. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to differentiate between a solid, a liquid, and a gas. And you should be able to give examples of how heating these things can change the state of matter. Awesome. So now let's get started in our fun activity today. So you're going to need 4 different materials. You're going to need 2 cups, a piece of ice, warm water, and a microwave. Now, you also might need parent or guardian help, and that's okay. But if you don't have these things, then you can just follow along and watch. Now, before we begin our super cool activity, I want you to turn to somebody in the room and argue whether you think that heat can affect the state of matter. Can a solid turn into a liquid? Or what about a liquid turning into a gas? Awesome job. So now we together are going to investigate whether a solid can turn into a liquid and a liquid turning into a gas by using heat. Okay, let's begin. So I have my cup of warm water, and then I have a piece of ice. But before we begin, can you tell me which one is a liquid and which one is a solid? Yeah, that's right. Our piece of ice is a solid. It's really hard. And our water is a liquid. So now we are going to see if we put this piece of ice in a super warm cup of water, will it turn into a liquid? Let's find out. So after a few minutes, let's observe what the water looks like now. So let's investigate whether or not the ice melted into a liquid. Now, I don't see any ice, do you? I see only liquid. It's just water. So that means that our investigation was right. If we use heat, a solid can turn into a liquid. Now, how about a liquid into a gas? Which brings us to the second part of our activity. Now, you're going to want a normal cup of plain water and a microwave. You're going to want to use parents' help for this. If not, that's okay. You can keep watching to see what happens. So now we're going to take a microwavable safe cup, fill it with normal water, and put it in the microwave for 3 whole minutes. And then we're going to observe what happens. After the 3 minutes, let's see what happens. See how it's bubbling and steamy? That means that our water has started to turn into a gas. Awesome job. So now let's recap what we just did. So in our activity, we wanted to investigate whether a solid could turn into a liquid or a liquid could turn into a gas using heat. And is that true? Yes. So now why is that? So in the beginning, when I talked about a molecule, remember how I told you how solids are super close like this, and liquids move and glide like this, and gases shoot everywhere. So when you heat up a molecule, it starts moving faster and faster, and that's why it changed states. So now for a recap from the very beginning, when we talked about solids, liquids, and gases. Remember how I talked about how a solid has its own shape, and a liquid can change its shape, and a gas, you can't even put it in a container. So now it's time for your turn to do an independent work. So now that we've talked about changing the states of matter, how about changing some physical properties of matter, like the size and the color? So, for example, what about this piece of paper? We can change the size, right? We can fold it to make it smaller. Well, what about the shape? Can we rip it to change its shape? And what about the color? We can take a marker and we can color it. And that changes the color, right? And those are some physical properties of matter. Well, how about a liquid? Can you change the shape of liquid? You can pour it into a different container like this. What about the color of liquid? Could we add food coloring to water? Or how about just colors in general, like orange juice is orange, right? And milk is white. These are all different kinds of physical properties of matter. So now you're an expert on how to change the state of matter and also how to change the physical properties. You're a genius! All right, now I want you to grab a blank sheet of paper and some pens or markers or pencils or whatever you would like to write with. We are going to make 3 columns. Our first column should be solids, our second column should be liquids, and our third column should be gases. Okay, for this activity, I'm going to name out a few substances and objects, and I want you to put them in the correct column, whether they're a solid, a liquid, or a gas. A pencil, water, oxygen, a chair, juice, wind, ice, milk, and steam. Okay, now for the bonus question. How does a solid turn into a liquid? And how does a liquid turn into a gas? Give an example. Go ahead and pause this video, finish up your columns, and answer that question, and we'll talk about it in just a few seconds. The solids, you should have gotten a pencil, a chair, and a piece of ice. For the liquids, you should have gotten water, juice, and milk. And for gas, you should have got oxygen, wind, and steam. For the bonus question, the answer is heat. How does a solid turn into a liquid, and how does a liquid turn into a gas? By heat. And an example is the activity that we just did. If you put a piece of ice in hot water, or if you heat water up. Awesome job, y'all. So, in our everyday life, we may encounter lots of different solids, liquids, and gases. And when heat is added, matter can change from a solid to a liquid or a liquid to a gas. What are some other examples of solids, liquids, and gases in your home? Are there any that change state when heated up? Thanks for tuning in to this lesson. I hope you enjoyed and learned lots. Keep learning and stay safe.